You're watching LWT.
From the studios of ITN, the news and sport with Carol Barnes and Graham Miller.
Welcome to the programme. The headlines tonight. Major's defiant stand on Europe rallies the Tories. Prince Charles's date at the Souk in Kuwait City.
And in sport, another David Beckham special keeps Manchester United on top of the Premiership.
John Major coupled a tough attitude towards Europe with a scathing attack on Labour in a keynote speech in Birmingham today. He told Conservative Party activists that a government wishing to represent Britain's best interests in Europe had to be prepared to stand alone. From Birmingham, here's our political editor, Michael Brunson.
Two faces of May.
Labour did their best to spoil the Tories' big day in Birmingham with a poster accusing Mr Major of having double standards. But that was precisely the charge which the Prime Minister threw back at Labour in a new and deliberately sharper attack on them. He said that, quote, marketing scam only promised what the customer wanted to hear, different things on different days.
Put it together and what do you get? The world's first federalist, nationalist, unilateralist, militarist, tax-cutting, more spending, grammar school loving, grammar school hating, socialist, non-socialist party.
Mr Major announced a significant toughening of education policy, with parents being promised their children's individual scores in national tests, before he moved on to Britain and Europe.
You cannot represent the interests of the United Kingdom in Brussels if you are not prepared to stand up and be isolated for Britain when it matters.
That drew huge applause, by far the biggest of the afternoon. But the Liberal Democrats said later that such isolation would destroy British influence. Labour said it showed Mr Major being driven by the factions in his party. Michael Brunson, ITN, Birmingham.
Pressure has increased on the police involved in the case of the Bridgewater Three to explain the way the prosecution was mounted. Jim Robinson and Vincent and Michael Hickey were said to have had an unbelievable day today, their first full day of freedom. Here's Joe Andrews.
Everything done. Look at me, mate.
The celebrations for the three men went on into the small hours. Today, all of them are said to be making their way back to the West Midlands, where they will try to pick up their lives. One man who knows how hard that will be is Paddy Hill, one of the Birmingham Six who was released from jail 6 years ago.
My life is a mess. In fact, there's not a week goes by. I told Jimmy Robinson last night, I said, Jimmy, there's not a week goes by I don't wish the hell I was back in jail.
The handwriting expert showed ITN today the results of one of the vital tests that won the men their freedom. It's this sheet and others like it which show the telltale impressions of a fabricated confession.
I was happy that the evidence, as I found, was consistent with being the impressions of another statement in the name of Vincent Hickey that had been made on a sheet of paper resting on the top page of the Malloy statement.
Meanwhile, the men and their families must now wait until the full appeal court hearing later this year to know the final verdict in this case. Joe Andrews, ITN.
Two French brothers suspected of murdering 4 girls were remanded in custody today when they appeared before a court in Boulogne. The bodies of the girls were found buried on a beach by gendarmes. They'd been missing for 11 days after disappearing during a carnival. Tens of thousands of people have been marching through Paris to demonstrate against a new bill aimed at cracking down on illegal immigration. It would require visitors from African and Arab countries to inform the authorities when they leave France. And hundreds of people took part in an anti-racism march in the East German city of Magdeburg. It was organised after a 17-year-old punk was allegedly killed by a right-wing extremist 2 weeks ago. Detectives hunting the killer of Billy Joe Jenkins are sifting through new information this evening after questioning hundreds of people in Hastings today. They spoke to motorists entering or leaving the area where the 13-year-old schoolgirl was killed last week. Robert Hall reports from Hastings.
The hour that brought tragedy to a seaside town. Exactly a week ago, 13-year-old Billy Joe Jenkins was bludgeoned to death.
The main points we're looking to cover are...
By flooding the area around her home, the inquiry team hoped to intercept and interview every pedestrian, every motorist, every potential witness.
There's 2 blokes in Hastings left to split an image of him, isn't there? Yeah.
Police believe that amongst those passing through on that busy Saturday afternoon may be someone who saw the killer.
Well, by questioning, we hope to take their mind back to last Saturday, where they were, who they were with, and if they saw anybody or any vehicle suspicious in the area.
2 men questioned over the attack have been released. Today, Billy Joe's family added to the bank of flowers outside her home. An entire community is sharing their grief and asking the same questions.
It has had a terrible effect on this area.
As time goes on, you do wonder if it can happen again.
Over 1,000 people were interviewed today. A week on, detectives hope the outrage still apparent here will help them win the information they seek. Robert Hall, ITN, Hastings.
The leader of the Welsh nationalists, David Wigley, claimed today that a Conservative election victory would lead to the breakup of Britain. He told Plaid Cymru's pre-election conference that a fifth Tory government would finally persuade thousands of Welsh and Scots to vote to leave the UK. Prince Charles sampled dates and sweet tea surrounded by the bustle of a traditional Arabian market today. He was visiting Kuwait as part of a final tour of the Gulf on board the Royal Yacht Britannia. Our royal correspondent Nicholas Owen reports from Kuwait.
Approaching Kuwait, the royal yacht and escort, HMS Edinburgh, which helps patrol the Gulf, diplomatically sensitive waters still. It's Britannia's first visit since the Gulf War on her last world voyage, ending with the handover of Hong Kong. Navy divers carried out a careful security check. Aboard, Prince Charles, addressing a business seminar, put in what sounded like a plug for Britannia, whose replacement has caused such political fuss back home.
And all I can say is that I hope you'll make the most of it, because it won't last very long time.
Next, ashore and the crowded, colourful chaos of the souk, a covered market. The Prince is known to be fond of dates and duly tried one. As the cameras closed in, he sampled a cup of sweet Arabic tea. Next week, Charles will see the poverty in Bangladesh, in such contrast to the prosperity of Kuwait, even if the threat of military conflict preys on people's minds. The scars of war here have mostly healed, and many millions have been poured into reconstruction. The Prince has come to help Britain get its share of this fast-expanding economy. Nicholas Owen, ITN, Kuwait.
Now, today's sports news, and with the details, here's Graham Miller.
Another spectacular goal from David Beckham kept Manchester United on top of the English Premiership. It earned United a draw at Chelsea and was already being marked out for Goal of the Month. Beckham's second-half strike extended United's unbeaten run to 15 matches and cancelled out Gianfranco Zola's second-minute goal for Chelsea that also brought the Stamford Bridge crowd to its feet. A good result for United because second-place Liverpool were held to a goalless draw by Blackburn. Les Ferdinand kept up Newcastle's challenge with the only goal at Middlesbrough in the Tyne-Tees derby. That result keeps Middlesbrough bottom, and Southampton are struggling too. They raced to a 2-0 lead over Sheffield Wednesday, but 2 second-half goals from David Hirst helped Wednesday to victory. Here's confirmation at the top. United 1 point clear of Liverpool, with Newcastle moving third with that one game in hand. In the First Division, Bolton are still 10 points clear after a 2-1 victory at Huddersfield, but they had to come from a goal down to do it. This was the equaliser from Chris Fairclough. Jerry Taggart got the winner. Wolves leapfrogged Barnsley into second place by beating them 3-1. In Scotland, Celtic reduced Rangers' lead at the top to 4 points. Jorge Cadet got the only goal at Motherwell. Rangers play at Hibs tomorrow. Tennis, Tim Henman is through to the final of the European Community Championship to keep a remarkable record going. It means there's been a Briton in every single ATP Men's Tour final so far this year. Henman beat Mark Gellner of Germany in straight sets in the semis, which means he'll rise to at least 15th in the new world rankings next week. But he still thinks the best is yet to come.
I've definitely improved coming into the tournament. I wasn't really playing with a great deal of confidence, but with the wins I've had, it's getting better and better, so I still feel there's room for improvement in the final.
Rugby Union in the quarter-finals of the Pilkington Cup. There were wins for Leicester over Newcastle and Gloucester at Wakefield, but the best result came from Sale, who went to Northampton and won. The former England scrum half Dewi Morris scored their first try. In Rugby League, the Bradford Bulls overpowered the London Broncos to reach the last 8 of the Challenge Cup. A late try from Robbie Poole took the game beyond London's reach. But the performance of the day must go to the Italian skier Pietro Vitellini. He was winning the men's downhill race at Garmisch-Partenkirchen in Germany when a spectator lost his footing and slid downhill in front of him. Vitellini had to race again, and remarkably, he still finished second behind Luc Alpond of France.
Finally, the winning numbers in this week's lottery draw. They are 1, 5, 8, 9, 23 and 27. That's 1, 5, 8, 9, 23 and 27. Bonus number is 22 and 8 winning tickets will share the jackpot of £7.3 million. And that's the news tonight from Graham and me and the ITN Weekend team. Good night.
Good night.